Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film The Boob from 1926. This is starting off my series of reviews where I try to review every film I can find from William Wellman's filmography. I'm going to review them throughout the year. This is the first available film from him that I can find at this present time. He made several other films before this, mostly Western genre kind of films, and this is his first comedy, I believe, but it is before his biggest silent film, Wings. Peter Good, played by George K. Arthur, has a small-town sweetheart for his whole life, and then she has fallen in love with this other evil guy, and so he's trying to get her back, and he decides to dress up as a cowboy kind of cluelessly, and he thinks the guy she's fallen in love with might be a bootlegger, or if he's not, he's gonna at least make himself heroic, but he is a bootlegger, and he takes her to the Book Lovers Club, which is like the lamest name for a club ever. It's a good cover though. If you're doing a speakeasy, no one would expect the Book Lovers Club to have alcohol, so I give them that. So he goes and finds out there's bootlegging, and with the help of a revenue agent played by a very young Joan Crawford, he tries to hunt them down and kind of cluelessly tries to stop this bootlegging operation and pretending he is an agent for the government even though he's not, and Joan Crawford kind of fills him in thinking he is one. This is very much kind of a studio assembly line comedy. I don't think it's a film anyone would watch if they're not a fan of William Wellman or a fan of Joan Crawford and you're going through the filmography and going, what haven't I seen? And since this is such an early film, there's not much available, I think it takes on a bigger significance than maybe the film itself really justifies. There are parts of this film that you can tell would lead to later inspiration with Wellman, because you look at how he had the camera mounted on the car during a car chase. Reminds me a lot of how he had the camera mounted on the plane during Wings, and the opening scene with the rival guy and the girl in the swing is similar to Wings. But he could have also done that in the several other silent films he made that I haven't and I can't see. As much as I think this is an alright film, Wellman hated it, Joan Crawford hated it. Wellman says this in his book, and I don't know if it's true, and it's not on the title cards, but silent film got re-released so much, who knows. But supposedly, Joan Crawford changed her name from her real name, which is Lucille Fay Lesor, to Joan Crawford, mostly because this movie wasn't very successful. I don't know if that's really true, and the copy I have of The Boob says Joan Crawford. She's not in it very much. She doesn't have the presence that she'd have in later silent films like Our Dancing Daughters, but she does kind of have a bit of a presence about her in it. It's kind of a small little role. They don't do much with it. I think they should have, actually. If you look at the story, it kind of made more sense if they had done more with her character. And her character does kind of play like a lot of Wellman women do in his film. She's very responsible. She has a job, a regular job. She's not just a pretty woman who's, somebody's wife or something. She is a revenue agent. The guy who's the lead, the guy who is the boob, the titular boob, I guess, George K. Arthur, is like a second string silent comedian. I don't think he's a great silent comedian. He's not up there with Keaton and Chaplin and Lloyd. He's kind of funny. And this film does have some funny parts to it, but I don't think it's that successful of a comedy. It's not horrible. Maybe if I was able to see his other stuff, I'm assuming maybe this was kind of the worst of his silent films, but since unfortunately for him, this is the one pre-Wings, the only one that we have, this is what we have to go on. And it does show some initiative visually. There's a sequence where they're talking about a picture, and he makes the picture into like a little scene in there, which I liked, and there's a dream sequence with the car, which I thought was a little cool, and he has a nice visual flair to it, but I don't think you get the visual directness you get from his 30s films. This is a very studio kind of assembly line kind of comedy, and it's not even one I think anybody making it really cared all that much about. Most of the time when we think of silent comedy, we're talking of people who are kind of auteurs towards their silent film comedies like Keaton and Chaplin and Lloyd, and I don't think with The Boob, Wellman and George K. Arthur cared really that much about it. It's still fun, it's funny, it's only like a little over an hour, it's not the worst thing in the world, You can tell it's a studio thing because the Book Lovers Club is actually a redress set from Ben-Hur, A Tale of Christ. This is also known as the yokel in the UK, not the boob. I guess, the yokel sounds a little nicer because I think now when you hear the boob, people are probably going to think there's boobs in this. I'm sorry to tell you there are not, but if that gets you to see the movie, there's a lot of boobs, trust me. It's kind of fun to see somewhat where Wellman started from. Certainly this isn't his first film. His first 2 films actually got released on the same day, which must have been a crazy day for him. But it's still cool to watch. You don't get the action genre stuff that you get and how he was trained with an action silent director. You don't really get that from this, and it's kind of like a different genre, and it's not very anti-authority, and it's not really a good example of Wellman as a director the way Wings is. It's a weird film that got to survive, but just to be able to see it is definitely cool and great, because so many silent films have been destroyed. I think it's like 90-80% of silent films made don't exist now, and it's cool to at least have this. I wish maybe we had had something else that was a better example of Wellman as a director in his later career. I think it was just kind of a crapshoot that this survived. And studio directors often had to make this kind of stuff. I think Wellman would later bring a little more panache to this later, but he hadn't had the big experience of Wings yet. So maybe Wings really put the fire under him to really do that kind of stuff and be more innovative. I'm just assuming, because I haven't seen these, so I'm really just picking out of the air here, but this is just what I'm reading into from seeing this versus Wings later. It was definitely a fun movie to watch, and it was a kind of fun silent comedy, and it's only an hour, so you know what's really wrong with that. So if you have seen The Boob and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And I will be back in 2 weeks with my review of William Wellman's classic and the first film to win Best Picture, Wings.